Hi, in the part 1 of this series of results discussion, I will talk about what is the difference between results and discussion. After this session, you should be able to 1. Differentiate between day-to-day discussions and discussion of results. 2. Explain the purpose of discussion section. And 3. Differentiate between the results and discussion section in a research paper, journal paper, or thesis. Discussion in everyday life is very different from the research discussion. When we sit down to talk about our assignments or our work, it is mostly an exchange of personal opinions, perhaps based on some guidelines. But in the context of research, the discussion is very serious business. Let's read one definition of it. The discussion is the part of your paper where you can share what you think your results mean with respect to the big questions you posed in your introduction or the gap of knowledge. Discussion in research is not repeating or summarizing the result. You need to interpret the result and explain what it means. Let's go to another definition of discussion in research. The purpose of the discussion is to interpret and describe the significance of your findings in light of what was already known about the research problem being investigated, and to explain any new understanding or fresh insights about the problem after you've taken the findings into consideration. So in other words, after we have described our results, we need to explain the meaning, that is, to interpret it in the context of the research problem. Remember, when we start the research, we defended a gap of knowledge, which is why we needed to do our study. Now, at this point, we already have the results. So what does it mean? We need to put the results back into the research problem and show how we have added to understanding of the area in the field. It's very important to be able to differentiate between results and the discussion section. Let's start with the look of it. If you look at the table of contents, chapter 4 would be for results and discussion. You may have 3 objectives for the study, one on language use, second one on attitudes, and the third one that links the two. And there will be a discussion section to conclude the results chapter. Example 2 here shows a more extensive table of contents because there are more aspects of the data which were analyzed. There are usually no headings for the discussion section. It is already hard enough to write the discussion section. If you were to put headings, that means you must be prepared to do a good discussion for each of the subheadings. You might do this for a PhD. Let's see whether you can recognize which one shows discussion of the results. I have here 4 sentences that comes from a discussion section of a paper. All right, you can probably spot that number 2 and number 4 are discussions, but number 1 and number 3 are the results of the study. It is actually very easy to spot the discussion because there would be citations. After all, we need to compare our findings with other people's findings. And this is how we bring in other researchers' findings for comparison, through citations. So now we need to really look at the results and the discussion section. What do results do? When we write our results, our purpose is to describe it systematically according to the objectives of our study. And of course, we use tables, figures, and excerpts to help explain our results. For me, when I write the results section, I also explain the meaning of the results for that particular objective of the study, that part only. And when I move to the second objective, I explain the meaning of the results for objective 2 and so on. An example is I would explain the impact of having many questions in the introduction and ending of a magazine article, because this is what I found in the results. However, when I move to the final discussion section, my purpose then becomes interpretation of the results in the context of the research problem. I'm no longer stuck with the objective of that study, but I move to the bigger context, which is the research problem, the gap of knowledge that prompted me to do the study in the first place. So for this particular study on the beginning and endings of magazine articles, previously what is known are based on views of experienced magazine writers. There were hardly any studies on it except for Shen 2019 done in the US. So we do not know based on results which of the strategies are more popular for beginning and ending a magazine article. But now, after we've done our study, I can say that certain hooks and endings are more common in the magazine I analyzed. And this is because of the subject matter, because it is written for people who come from the same place and they talk about the experiences and the memories of that place. So the readership is also people who know this place, so they make references to places and people in the area. So this actually influenced the use of the hooks and endings in the magazine articles for reader engagement. So to conclude this, I'd like to tell you that when we do discussion, we move from our study, within our study, that is the description of results, to outside of our study, which is where we bring in other researchers' findings to help us understand the research problem better. And now with our results, we can offer a better explanation of the field. I hope this will help you to write a better discussion session. Please listen to my other two parts of this series on the discussion of results.